Austin Region Justice for Our Neighbors, a nonprofit law office, welcomes refugees and immigrants into our communities by providing free, high-quality immigration legal services, education, and advocacy. Welcome to the 2020 Virtual Gala of Austin Region Justice for Our Neighbors. I'm Elizabeth Wright, or some of you know me as Lizzie. I'm the executive director, and I'm so glad to be together tonight. We are together. We're learning a lot about how we can overcome distance to be together. And some folks are here from very far away, and I'm so glad to be able to share our work this year in this particular way. We've titled the gala A Time of Change, A Time for Change. And I know everyone relates to that on some level right now. There's change that we expect and change that we don't expect, and those can both be good or bad. There's change that we want, change that completely takes us out of the blue. And I think all of that sounds a lot like immigration law any given day. But we hope that tonight we'll be able to share with you about some of the changes we've been going through, both extremely hard and good. And then some of the change that we're longing for, we're hoping for, we're proud to be able to report back to you. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And I want to say, I'm so grateful. And I feel like you need to know, like, by being here, you are changing lives. Your very presence is a willingness to be changed yourself, to engage, to learn and listen and take away something new. There's going to be empowerment tonight for advocacy, for systemic change. And, well, the very tickets you bought or your donations, that they are empowering change every day. They go to provide the legal services that change our clients, our neighbors' lives. And they help us to expand our education and advocacy efforts so that we can help a desire for justice grow throughout our communities. Now, some of you have been a part of ARJFON or been connected to ARJFON since we started 7 years ago. Some of you are brand new to who we are tonight. So I'm gonna take a moment to walk us through where we are, because where we started 7 years ago, we're doing a different particularity of immigration law, and we do it in a different way. And then also immigration law changes all the time. So everyone might need a refresher about who we are and what we do. Within immigration law, we focus on humanitarian relief, and within that, we have two areas that we're most focused on. So we work asylum cases, and then also we try to pursue special immigrant juvenile status for children when we think it's possible. Asylum is a status that a person pursues when they are unwilling or unable to return to their country of nationality because of persecution they've already experienced or a well-founded fear of persecution to come on account of their race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, or because of a political opinion. And often that comes with being in a political group. You can also seek asylum based on a fear of torture at the hands of the government or with the consent of the government. And I can't help myself. I was planning to just make sure you knew the definition, but I feel like I have to clarify because I hear this a lot, and those who've been to any of the 5 Myths education programs I've done know that this is one of the first things we talk about. The idea that asylum could function as a loophole. You might hear that out in the world. It is impossible to consider it a loophole because it is such an impossible seeming status to gain, especially right now, as it seems like the window just keeps getting smaller and smaller. It's like that moment in Alice in Wonderland when the path is getting swept away, or if you play Fortnite, it's like everything is closing in. The area you can play in is getting smaller and smaller, and it's harder and harder to survive in it. And there's so much more about asylum besides even the particular role we get to play right now for those who aren't being restricted at the border, who are already here with us. So I kind of can't help myself on that. But let me move on and say a word about what special immigrant juvenile status is. This is for children who've experienced abuse, abandonment, or neglect from one or both parents. And so I think the most profound thing I can say about this, from my own experience in the office, is having a conversation with our legal director, Becky, and an understanding from her that often she can potentially get special immigrant juvenile status for one of the children or for children in a family. But that's not something she can get for the parent that is there, usually a mother. And so often mothers are choosing to move forward with their asylum case that will be very hard to win, while their children have the possibility of getting status through SIJ, getting protection, temporary protection through SIJ. And so it's astonishing to me to imagine, but I also am not surprised that mothers choose to be sure their children can get protection, even if there is the possibility that by losing their case for asylum, separation is still lingering on the horizon. The importance is for their children to be safe. And so often that's what mothers choose. We do have clients whose case type varies from these two main categories of asylum and SIJ. Many of you know about the push we made for a couple of DACA renewals in the spring, and thank you so much for helping us do that. We were unsure of the status of DACA at the time, but also now DACA recipients are having to renew every year. It used to be you could get protection for 2 years, and then that also means they'll have to pay that fee every year to renew as well. But not only do we stick with clients like these DACA recipients, but we also stick with clients to help them adjust status to a more permanent status, or maybe to a status that carries more benefits and rights with it. So asylees can adjust status to lawful permanent resident after a year, and then lawful permanent residents can eventually adjust status and pursue citizenship. Special immigrant juveniles can adjust status to lawful permanent resident or green card holder. And the key there is to hear that word permanent. And so we'll say a lot more about the push that we've been making recently for adjustments of status. But we also work, of course, on work permits for those who qualify. So that may be a separate case that we're carrying with the same client that has some other kind of relief that we're working on for them. So there is a little bit more variety in our caseload, a smattering of that, but the bulk really falls under asylum and SIJ. That is the very most basic overview I can give, with a little bit of indulgence in it as well. You're going to hear from our legal director, you're going to hear from our legal assistant, both of whom I'm so grateful to work with. You're going to hear from Melissa Bowe, who is the program manager and advocacy director for National Justice for Our Neighbors. And she's got so much to share with you. We are so grateful tonight to have the gifts of Javier Jara, who's going to be sharing original music with us, and you'll hear more from me about that later. But you've heard enough from me right now, and I'm going to toss things over to a video from some of our board members who want to share about their role in the work we do, and possibilities for you to share in that too.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Parsons, and I'm the board secretary.
Hello, my name is Monica Torno, and I am a ARJFON Austin board member.
Hi, I'm Clayton Carr. I chair the board of Austin Region Justice for Our Neighbors.
Being on the ARJFON board is really important to me because, like a lot of people, migration is a part of my family story. My maternal grandparents emigrated to the United States from Germany in the mid-1900s, and I know that their life was made better by being able to move here when they needed to.
I am an immigrant myself, and I'm a Christian, so helping immigrants is a cause I hold very dear to my heart.
As a Christian, immigration is a part of my faith story. Abraham was called by God to leave the land where he was born and move to another place. And when he got there, he received hospitality, and in turn, he offered hospitality to travelers.
Immigrants are literally the least of these in our society. They're looked down upon, they lack basic human rights protection, and truthfully, they are the last concern to many of us. Although ironically, the pandemic has exposed how dependent on immigrants we really are. They are the ones who feed us, that perform all this essential work in our society. But despite this fact, they continue to be treated as disposable.
Part of the beauty of the US is the idea that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are worthwhile goals. And I think that without migrant justice, those values are threatened. And so it is important to me to be part of an organization that is working to protect the value, the dignity, the rights of migrants, and to ensure that migrants are a part of our population, a part of our society, a part of our communities.
This privileged position, being a gift from God, comes with great responsibility.
I think that there's so much passion and so much momentum with ARJFON.
Justice, advocacy, and legal work are the most effective way to help immigrants because this ensures their well-being for a lifetime. And we need to hire more attorneys so that we're able to receive more cases and not turning anybody away. We don't want to turn anybody away.
In order to change our elected officials' minds about immigration policy, we're going to have to change the minds of the people around us first.
A large segment of our population needs to be educated on this topic. It's a controversial and complicated topic, mostly because there are a lot of misconceptions, myths, and ignorance around it.
I hope that in the next few years we can expand our advocacy programs so that we can move from just offering mercy one client at a time, seeking to get individuals fair treatment under the law, to the point where we can actually advocate for a fair and just immigration system nationwide.
My dream for ARJFON is to be able to expand our staff so that we can expand our clientele and even expand volunteer opportunities, expand community involvement. I would love to see more people of Austin involved in the work that ARJFON is doing. And in order to coordinate volunteers, we need to expand our staff.
And I want to ask you, what is going to happen to our immigrant brothers and sisters if I don't help them, if I don't protect them, if I don't advocate for them?
I would love to see ARJFON help facilitate the volunteer efforts of people who are really passionate about this work.
People who are willing to advocate for immigrants.
The kind of sacrificial love that involves basic human rights protection, advocacy for equality, justice, dignity, and respect.
Anyone who feels any kind of call to be part of something bigger should absolutely look into joining the board.
People who are willing to serve with each other and to serve our staff and our clients through their efforts to make sure that we can continue providing free legal counsel to immigrants in need.
God has called me personally to involve my work around immigrants and justice. Same reason that I am extending this invitation to you. We need you. ARJFON needs you. Our immigrant brothers and sisters need you. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. You can join us in this work with your support, with your time and resources.
I think there's a misconception that in order to be on the board of directors for a nonprofit, you have to, have spent a life doing advocacy work or nonprofit or volunteer work. That's not true. We need all kinds of community members from all kinds of sectors of industry. And so really anyone who cares about this issue, who likes to help solve problems and come up with solutions, and who can think strategically and ground all of those in compassion.
If you want to join this work, if you feel called to support the mission of Austin Region ARJFON to deliver free, high-quality legal services while educating the public about immigration issues and while advocating for a more just immigration system, I hope you'll go to jfonaustin.org/board and fill out an application to join our board.
In the lead up to the gala, we asked our monthly givers to submit questions for our legal director, Rebecca Rosenberg. So we're going to turn to that next. And we may not get to all the questions asked, so we'll do a follow-up video with the others. But I'm going to welcome Becky to join us for this question and answer time.
Hi, I'm Becky Rosenberg. I've been with ARJFON for about 5, almost 6 years now. I live here in Austin with my husband and my 2 kids, and I am so happy to see all of you here today.
I'm going to start off. You mentioned you've been with us for 5.5 years, and that makes you the longest tenured staff member, which is incredible. There's a lot of turnover in immigration law in general, and then in nonprofit work too, and we're both. But this question comes from one of our givers. What inspired you to do this work in the first place?
Well, what a story. I always planned on doing public service, public interest law. I went to law school with that plan in mind. I did take immigration law, of course, in law school, but where I ended up focusing at that time in clinical work was actually in child welfare law. And that was what I first did after graduating. I worked with children and parents in the child welfare system. And as it happens, in 2014, a bunch of children came to the United States for reasons related to what was happening in their home countries. And that was also the year that Austin Region ARJFON started. And I wasn't around at ARJFON yet, but we, meaning ARJFON, decided to play a role in helping these kids see them through the immigration process. And to do that, it turned out that they needed someone with experience in child welfare law and family law and a strong interest in public service and working for a nonprofit. And so they happened to find me. And I actually came on board as the family law attorney. And next thing I knew, I was an immigration attorney too. And now I'm a legal director and immigration attorney. So it's been quite a journey, but I'm so happy it ended up where it is.
Another question, how has the pandemic affected your work?
Well, you mentioned my kids don't come to the office anymore. That's for sure. Some of the things that have affected us have basically are what everyone is experiencing. You know, there were some periods where I didn't have childcare, for instance. So I was Zooming from home with the kids in the background, just like so many other people out there.
Right. You had to wait forever for me to make protocols to make it safe in the office. We were figuring out how to get the mail, get things scanned. Sure, all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and now our office is a combination of working remote and limited working in the office, but usually just one person at the time. We still work with the system that requires paper. For those of you who are lawyers out there, that might come as a shock, but we don't have e-filing. I mean, they're very minimal amounts. So we're doing paper, and so that does mean you're still going to the office to use the scanner, the copier, things like that when you really need it, like something that can handle a high volume. Some other changes, some of the difficulties with the mail, things like that's affected us as well. It's an issue because, like I said, we work with a paper system, so we have to send things in the mail.
Well, and we've had trouble in the past, right? I mean, sorry to interrupt there. And I mean, the many years, because I've only been with ARJFON for about 18 months. I guess maybe getting closer to 20 now. But, you know, I hear the stories of even when things have been sent certified, and it's great that we have that receipt because someone is saying, no, it didn't arrive. So it's also not a matter of dropping, put a stamp on it, send it away, hope it gets there in time.
So I was trying to delicately,
sorry,
a bit too delicately touch on the fact that we work with hostile systems sometimes, and needing to rely on mail can leave us vulnerable. So we've had to kind of up our game in terms of FedEx, sending things early, tracking everything. So those are definitely issues. In terms of other changes, a lot of our clients are essential workers. A lot of them also have school-age children or children who are not yet school age. So our clients, many of them face a lot of dilemmas, and some of them work in fields where there is less demand for their work. And so if they still have jobs, they might be getting scheduled less often. You know, if you work in a restaurant or if you work in a hotel, those might be industries that are facing less demand. So we're also just trying to work with our clients and be there for our clients as they navigate whatever additional challenges the situation brings to them as well.
Right, right. Well, and I think, this question asks about the pandemic. And like you said, I think a lot of stuff we faced is a variation or just a different level of the things other people are facing and changes they're having to make, adjustments, that kind of stuff. But also during this season that the pandemic's been going on, there have been tons of other changes. And so that it's kind of like those things play into each other, would be the way it feels to me as someone who works alongside the legal team. I don't have to do the legal work, although some of what the adjustment in the pandemic has been is that you have me frantically texting you to go, how do I scan this thing the way you need it? Everything, like if it's my day to be physically present in the office. But what are some of those changes that have happened just in this season that fit into the pandemic as well?
There are a lot of things that are happening. Some things are ostensibly related to the pandemic, but we don't think they're really the pandemic. And a lot of that has to do with closing the borders to asylum seekers. Some of those things directly affect us, some of those things indirectly affect us. I would say the most important thing to know about this situation is to never say it doesn't affect us, so it's not a problem. Because we've found that anytime any decision is made with some type of hostility or intention of ending or limiting immigration, it's usually a signal of something else to come that will affect some other group. The government has also, in the middle of all this, changed their requirements for applications. And by requirements, I mean what they will reject an application or deny an application based on. And some of those new procedures aren't even announced in advance. And sometimes you can follow everything and still get it rejected.
Next question I'm going to ask is why is it so important to offer Austin Region JFON's legal services for free to clients? And I just want to take a second to say, if folks don't know, not every JFON office, not every JFON chapter is free. Some have a fee schedule for different things. Sometimes it's limited in order to support free services to others. There's a range there. There's a range amongst the other nonprofits in Austin, but this is something that we are pretty committed. Well, I shouldn't say pretty. This is something we're firmly committed to. It comes up in our discussions about our vision and mission amongst the board, the meetings that Becky and I both go to as well. And so I think it is important to hear your perspective. So I'm going to stop talking and let you answer the question. Why is it important for us to offer our legal services for free?
The shortest answer is that it makes them available to people who wouldn't otherwise have access to those services. Most other providers do charge fees. And it's not small fees. It's often a significant portion of what it costs to provide those services, because providing legal services is expensive. Providing immigration services is expensive. It takes a lot of hours of an attorney's time and of staff time to get everything done. I'm especially grateful that we don't have to pass on that cost to our clients, because so many other parts of the process also have costs, and our clients, some of them can afford those and sometimes they can't. But what I can always say is, you will never have to pay for my time, and treat you like you owe me anything. We are glad to have you here and glad to help you here. And I won't have to nag you about a bill. I don't have to make you afraid to call your lawyer because you're behind on paying. We don't have to worry that you'll put off addressing something because you're afraid to find out what it would cost. You can just come right to us and ask, and I can tell you about your legal situation and what your options are and whether we have the capacity to help. And if we do, then that's a very low barrier to getting started. It's not now. Save up this many hundreds or thousands of dollars and come back.
Thanks for taking this time to be with us in this way during the gala, Becky. And we will follow up with other questions in a separate video after the gala that we couldn't get to in this time. But also just thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being so open with us. And
I want to thank all of y'all for coming and for your support.
We have an extraordinary gift being shared with us tonight by musician Javier Jara. Javier is himself an immigrant from Ecuador. He has been performing and producing Latin music of all genres in the United States for over 15 years, but he specializes in Latin root and Latin folk music. And tonight he's going to share two pieces from his latest album project, Our Rhythms, Our Voices. Now, this is such a tender and intimate and extraordinary project he's been working on. Our Rhythms, Our Voices is where Latin American immigrants from all walks of life share their stories. They're interviewed by Jane O'Brien about their experiences in the United States. And then each story is turned into a poem by Yair Duran. And then that is set to music by Javier. It's an incredible gift to receive someone's story. It's a tender, intimate thing, as I've said. And so tonight we will hear Alicia's story and we will hear Delia's story. First up, Alicia. Alicia is a Guatemalan woman who crossed the border on foot, fleeing violence and lack of opportunity in her homeland. And in spite of those challenges, she persevered, making tough decisions to support her family.
Me han dicho que al llegar tarde o temprano sale el sol y es el sueño americano. Me han dicho que comprando ese boleto podré dormir mejor, no es un secreto. Me han dicho que al salir es un milagro de dolor, dólares a Quetzaltenango. Me han dicho que se puede hacer por ellos el esfuerzo que realice nuestros sueños. Me voy, mamá, es por ustedes y no lloré. Cuide a mi niño y espero el tiempo aflore. Alicia es el aliento de la vida, alía la esperanza por cruzar, alinea con su fuerza y su valía, aligerando el tren de los demás. Alicia que entre púas de silencio alineaba elementos por llegar, alimenta su cuerpo de vacío, alentándose sola y nada más. Me han dicho que si llego todo cambia, corriendo va mi niño, juega y baila. Me han dicho que hay un grupo que se anima, lo que no dicen es lo duro y el mal clima. Me han dicho que se cuenta, que se puede, y yo no tengo opción y sé que duele. Me han dicho que me duerma en el desierto, y yo no duermo al ver que nada es cierto. Lo cierto es que me han dicho y yo me digo, corre y sálvate, por ello sobrevivo. Alicia es el aliento de la vida, alía la esperanza por llegar, alinea con su fuerza y su valía, aligerando el tren de los demás. Alicia que entre púas de silencio alineaba elementos por llegar, alimenta su cuerpo de vacío, alentándose sola y nada más.
I tell folks what I do, there are often a lot of questions and it can get uncomfortable, and that's okay. I think that's something the pandemic has opened us up to, right? Is this this different kind of uncomfortability, but also the reality that a lot of people have lived with uncomfortabilities we can't imagine, and so we need to enter into that and walk alongside with some humility and respect for that truth. But one of the questions I am most excited to hear when folks are wondering about my work and pressing for things is, but what can we do? You know, it can feel really overwhelming. I know, believe me, I know. It can feel really overwhelming how we can change things. But even asking the question is such a helpful response to hear from someone, because it reminds me that other people do believe we can make change happen, and we can make change happen. We do have a voice. And so I am thrilled to get to welcome Melissa Bowe, who is the Program and Advocacy Manager at National Justice for Our Neighbors. Melissa is a wealth of knowledge, and she is going to speak specifically about advocacy. And I pair these things together, this idea of what can we do in advocacy. I mean, every gift that you give to us we put towards legal services that are changing lives for immigrants. We're also trying to expand our work in advocacy precisely because that changes the system for all immigrants. That changes some of the process that is inhumane. That shifts the targeting that's happening or the restricting. That opens doors for those who are having every door slammed in their face. And so I'm so excited to welcome Melissa and to hand things over to her to share what I know will be an extraordinary empowerment of us all to do something and to do it in ways that makes sweeping change.
Hello, Austin, Texas. My name is Melissa Bowe, and I'm the Program and Advocacy Manager at National Justice for Our Neighbors, and I'm honored to be here with you today. I've got to say, your community, your city, and your site has a special place in my heart. I've been working with Austin Region JFON for a long time now. In fact, I worked with the founding board members, and I really just have always been in awe of the vision, the community, and just the vibrancy of your city. And so I do wish I was there with you today, but I will take joining you virtually to talk about something very important to us at National Justice for Our Neighbors, which is immigration advocacy and policy, specifically right now of any time that at least I've been working on these issues. The time is now to get involved with immigration advocacy and policy. And especially leading up to the election, we need to understand what's happening in the immigration world because it's dire. So I'd like to share with you a presentation. I hope to not bore you with PowerPoint. It's just going to be a few slides that talk about some of these key issues that we want all of our JFON supporters to be aware of right now. The first are changes at USCIS. So as many of you already know, USCIS stands for the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Agency. It's part of the United States Department of Homeland Security, and it administers our naturalization and immigration system. That means that our attorneys across the country are interacting and depend on USCIS every day in administrating their work and representing their clients. So they announced that they had a funding deficit and requested $1.2 billion of emergency funding in May of 2020. And they also then announced that more than 13,000 employees would possibly be furloughed starting August 31st if they did not receive that bailout. Now, currently, those furloughs are delayed, and Congress has been talking about funding for USCIS that would keep them afloat. But for us, we want to make sure that any kind of bailout comes with guardrails, comes with accountability for USCIS, because we've been seeing major changes that are concerning, that stall and hurt our work as immigration legal service providers and alarm us as American citizens. So the first thing I want to lift up today is this employment authorization card and green card delay issue. Our practitioners across the country have been experiencing extreme delays in being able to receive these vital documents for our clients to be able to function and survive and take care of themselves, especially in this moment during an international pandemic. It's important for folks to be able to work, to provide for their families, to gain health insurance, and also for folks to gain green cards and not be at risk for deportation. The next is something very important around a biometrics and surveillance policy that was recently announced. They proposed a rule that would dramatically expand its surveillance over immigrants as well as United States citizens sponsoring immigration cases. The proposal includes collecting DNA, voice prints, iris and face scans, as well as other personal characteristics for virtually all immigration and citizenship applicants to be stored in government databases, potentially forever. Even survivors of trafficking and domestic violence, including children, would not be excluded. This, of course, is very alarming to us. Last but not least, USCIS also announced that they'd be increasing fees and form changes to be put into effect at the beginning of the month, October 2nd. Now, thankfully, a court has issued an injunction which essentially halts these fee changes for now, but we need to address why this is happening. Why all of a sudden we are going to impose massive fee increases for immigrants seeking relief that they are entitled to. We've never charged for an asylum application fee. These new rules impose a $50 fee for asylum seekers, almost doubling fees for naturalization and adjustment of status services, and eradicating most fee waivers. So these changes are really alarming to us at National Justice for Our Neighbors, and something we need to keep abreast of as people who care about immigrants and upholding our immigration legal system. What some of these changes could mean. Agency furloughs could halt U.S. immigration, okay? So we're talking about an invisible wall instead of a physical wall at the border, negatively impacting families, U.S. businesses, educational institutions, medical facilities, and churches. The increased and extreme surveillance proposal will have chilling effects on immigrants and their families from accessing the benefits they're entitled to. We know this. It would also expand the police state. It's an affront to democracy and the values of privacy enshrined in the U.S. Constitution, and is deeply dehumanizing. The administration has provided no valid justification for indefinite and extreme surveillance and has proven unable to safeguard personal data in the past. Likewise, the proposed fee increases will deter immigrants from accessing justice. Immigrant benefits will be regulated to the wealthiest immigrants in this country. We are against all of these proposals. And we know that these changes not only change the landscape of the agency, but challenge our democracy. So we encourage any JFON supporter to have an eye towards this. What are the possibilities here? And how do we advocate for accountability with USCIS first and foremost, and then second, that they don't implement these policies that are going to hurt our attorneys' ability to do their job, but more importantly, hurt our clients and our communities and our neighbors, and preclude our neighbors who are the most marginalized from accessing the very benefits they're entitled to here in this country. The next issue I want to bring up very quickly that is so important, it was announced last week. Sweeping new regulations, which essentially make the final blow to the U.S. asylum system. The Department of Homeland Security and Department of Justice jointly published the final rule, which is entitled Procedures for Asylum and Bars to Asylum Eligibility. They impose multiple new bars to asylum and rewrite asylum law to exclude nearly all people seeking refuge. When these asylum rules go into effect, which will be in shortly if they aren't challenged in court, the U.S. can no longer call itself a country that offers refuge to the persecuted. The rules apply to any person seeking asylum in the U.S. regardless of how they enter the country. Unlike prior rules that focused on the southern border, the new rules would affect people who fly to the United States on a visa and later seek asylum. It gives asylum officers and immigration judges broad authority to engage in many trials to explore unadjudicated conduct, and moves the definition of conviction and sentence even further away from how those terms are used in most criminal courts. They also affect people who already applied for asylum and have pending cases. Over 300,000 people currently have affirmative asylum applications pending in at USCIS, and hundreds of thousands of additional people have asylum cases pending in immigration court. It limits particular social group. It narrows the definition of persecution to an extreme concept of severe level harm. It gives more authority to immigration judges to make determinations without hearings, without giving folks the opportunity to tell their story, which is so central to our asylum system as it stands. It streamlines proceedings, and it makes credible fear interviews become harder to pass. These are just two issues that we are flagging at the national level that will have extreme consequences on all of our offices and so many of our immigrant neighbors across the country. The time is now to get involved. What's being proposed is so incredibly concerning, and we know there's so many issues to get involved in, and so many issues that are facing our clients and our offices. No matter what you decide to get involved in, I'm here today to encourage you to get involved, to find out different ways to contact your decision makers in Austin, in Texas, and tell them what matters to you as somebody who lives in your community, as a person of faith, as somebody who connects your own story to the immigrant story. We just beg you to get involved. Thank you for being here today and supporting Austin Region JFON, and please be in contact with us. Thanks so much.
We want to welcome back Javier Jara to share his gift with us again, this time also alongside the gift that Delia shares in her story. Delia is an Ecuadorian indigenous woman who, in spite of her outstanding academic achievements, faced racial and gender discrimination. So this song is a celebration of her achievements and her strength to face social and cultural differences.
Delia usaba su traje tradicional. Está capacitada para poner en orden preciso lo que sabe hacer. Fue calificada en su país natal. Adquiere visa por su gran talento. Es serena y clara, de lenguaje atento. Nunca pensaba que por su apariencia tendría que lidiar con la inconsciencia. Tendría que lidiar con la inconsciencia. Le dijeron ni modo, limpia casas. Ella sabía más de las computers, de dígitos, de códigos, de tasas, corazón de migrantes, tiempos streamers. ¿Cuándo será más grande este planeta? Cuando el racismo acabe y nos someta. Cuando el racismo acabe y nos someta.
We're going to shift gears back to a kind of conversational mode. You've heard from Rebecca Rosenberger, Becky, our legal director. I'm going to welcome another staff member, our legal assistant, Michelle Salgado, to just reflect some with us in a conversational way about this idea of a time of change and her particular perspective, working so closely aligned with our clients. And then also just what it means to be together tonight for the gala and together in general in this fight. So welcome, Michelle.
Well, what you were kind of talking about reminded me about, this is a little silly, but it reminded me of working the holidays at Starbucks, where, you are short-staffed because maybe someone got sick and you're nearing the 25th and tension is high for so many reasons, both from, people that you're working with and then customers that are coming in. And it's just the busiest time of the year, at least at Starbucks, was Black Friday and Christmas. And, you've had this period from October and you're almost to December 25th. And you have been digging deep and finding your second wind, your third wind, your fourth wind. And, you're really wondering where that next wind is going to come from because you are scraping the bottom of the barrel.
Right.
And then you see that fresh face come in for their shift and they're going to take over or they're going to get it on the bar right next to you and they're going to help you. And it's like they haven't even started. They haven't even, slid into position. And you already feel this just overwhelming, wonderful relief that gives you that next win, that next energy that you need to get through the next part of your shift so that, you can do all the things that you need to do still. And that's what that same sense of just relief and of being in good hands is something that I guess that's something that I wish that more people not knew, but consciously thought of when interacting with immigration law is that when it comes to law firms and everybody involved in immigration law, that it's not just relief that we're looking for our clients, but it's also relief that we need for ourselves. And while, of course, funders are incredibly important, they allow us to do the work that we do. But from an emotional level and from a mental health level, just to be able to look over and see that fresh face saying, hey, what can I do for you? I'm here for you. What can we do? Help me help you. And it just, I can't explain. And the way that I feel that is that, I'm answering the phones all day, and all day I'm on the line with clients who, are going through very difficult stages in their case. And then people who are seeking an attorney and they are in a difficult place in their life. And you're constantly taking in really tough personal information. And then the next call that you take is a funder asking how they can give for the gala, how they can buy tickets for an entire group that they go to church with, or how they can access the event, or even saying that they can't make it, but that they want to support, and how do they send money in. And it's that little extra something that's there that says, that's right, I'm not in this alone. I might be home alone working, but I'm not actually alone. And, there's this whole army behind us, and they're thinking of us, and they are fighting with us and fighting for us.
Yeah.
It's really meaningful, and in just ways that I personally haven't had to consider. It's making me think a lot about the time when I was trying to get in touch with someone, one of our clients, and just trying to take care of a very simple thing in their case. And I had been having trouble getting in touch with them. And this has been happening a bit more for a whole host of reasons, from all of the challenges that come along with us being in a pandemic. But I finally got in touch with a person, and she was answering from a hospital bed in a hospital needing medical care because she was having difficulties breathing and she had COVID. And she was answering the phone for her attorney's office from her hospital bed and doing her best to take care of her side of her immigration case. And that to me just spoke volumes about the changes, but also about the beautiful tenacity that you find in this community.
Because also, I mean, and wasn't part of the conversation at some point, if I remember correctly, like also a concern that like, well, being in the hospital caused a problem for my case. Like,
yep, that's right. But I've been working with, and he recently received an RFE for his medical exam and vaccinations. And when I spoke with him on the phone first to let him know that this had come in and he would need to make arrangements, make this appointment, I could tell that he was not wanting to tell me that he didn't have the means to have that exam, to get that exam. And it's hundreds of dollars, all at one go. And I could tell that it cost him a lot to say that to me. And we were able to help because of our donors and their wonderful support.
Well, thanks for taking time, being willing to chat about all of this with us. And of course, thank you for all the work you do. I mean, it's amazing. And I'm the lucky duck who gets to work with you and check texts from you. But now folks who've gotten to talk to you on the phone before and who have longed to put a face to a name, they're getting to meet you too, and I'm glad for that. So, yeah. We want to empower our clients to have their voices heard and honored. And the manner in which we'd hope for that to be true tonight, unfortunately, is not going to be possible. And because empowerment also involves a lot of risk and vulnerability on the part of our clients, it's not something that we ask someone to step in. So we're going to proceed with the piece about our client and follow up with the voices of our clients, not speaking about them, but our clients speaking for themselves, sharing with you directly in a client video when we can make that happen securely and confidently. This is good work. It is hard work. We need to do our work. Now, you may have heard there's an election on Tuesday. I can't predict the outcome, but I can tell you that no matter the outcome, we will have a lot of work to do. Either we will face an administration that will double down on restrictive, punitive, and inhumane policies. And so we will have to dig in to work for every inch of freedom and justice for all. Or we will have a change in administration and we will need to hold them accountable to follow through on the changes we long to see. And then all the hope and all the possibilities that would come with those changes will mean a lot of work as people seek legal help and long-term security. And we will be here for it because we have a community with supporters like you. You've heard it. We need your encouragement, and we are so grateful for it. We need your help to spread awareness about the work we do. We need your nominations for our board. We need to hire more people and develop a robust volunteer corps. We need to do our work. We need your donations. If you're ready to give tonight, the link should be in the chat. And if you're not, remember what you heard tonight and return to us when you do feel ready to give. Consider what you could give over a certain amount of time and divide it and develop it into a monthly gift, and then give more than the literal value of that gift, but the added stability that comes with a monthly gift by knowing that help is coming and it will be here next month too. All the anxieties you heard tonight, they're real, and we will conquer them. All that you heard about the power of our clients' persistence and the strength they show and their trust of us to do this work together, all the dreams and the realities of goodness, we will multiply them together. We need to do our work, and together we will change lives. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being here for our neighbors. Good night.